Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into John Siracusa's fascinating new app, Hyperspace, a tool designed to reclaim disk space on macOS using the power of APFS clones. It's a really clever application of existing technology.
Right. I'm particularly intrigued by the backstory. It all started with his early fascination with Macintosh file systems, right? The type and creator codes, resource forks, the very foundations of the classic Mac experience. That's a deep dive into computing history.
Absolutely. He even mentions his excitement about BIOS's file system back in the late 90s, and then the near miss with ZFS becoming the Mac standard. It's a journey through almost 4 decades of file system evolution. Then, the arrival of APFS in 2017 was a game-changer.
Yeah, APFS with its point-in-time snapshots and copy-on-write clones. That's where the magic happens, isn't it? The seemingly instantaneous duplicate command in Finder? That's not actually duplicating the data, it's creating a clone.
Precisely. That's the core concept that Hyperspace leverages. Siracusa realized he could save significant space by identifying files with identical content but without the clone relationship, and then converting them into clones. He even wrote a Perl script, a C tool, and a Swift tool to achieve this initially.
Wow, a multi-language approach. That's dedication. So he turned this into a full-fledged Mac app. It's not just about finding duplicates and deleting them, which many apps already do. It's about intelligently creating clones to save space without losing any data. A very elegant solution.
Exactly. He calls it Hyperspace, and it's available on the Mac App Store. It's free to scan your drive and see the potential savings, but you need to pay to actually reclaim the space. A smart business model, I think.
I see. And it's written in SwiftUI, his second app using it, and his first using the new SwiftUI lifecycle. He also mentions using Swift 6, which he found easier to use from the beginning than converting an existing app. Interesting insight into the development process.
Yeah, he even calls it an incredibly dangerous app in a recent podcast appearance. Modifying files it doesn't own is inherently risky, but, the potential benefits for users with large storage needs are significant. It's a bold move.
It certainly is. A fascinating blend of deep technical understanding, innovative problem solving, and a bit of calculated risk. It's a testament to his expertise and passion for file systems. I'm definitely intrigued enough to check it out.
Me too. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating blog post about embedding Python within Elixir using a new tool called Python X. It's a game changer, really. Exciting stuff.
I'm eager to hear this. From what I understand, Elixir's been making strides in machine learning, but integrating with existing Python libraries has been a challenge, right?
Exactly. The NX ecosystem in Elixir is booming, with projects like Bumblebee and Scholar, but many companies already have Python workflows. They don't want to rewrite everything from scratch. That's where Python Bumblebee X comes in. It's a bridge!
So Python X lets you run Python code directly within the Erlang VM? That's pretty impressive. How does it handle data conversion between Elixir and Python?
Seamlessly. It automatically converts data types. The blog post shows an example using OCR with PyTesseract. They fetch an image with rec, then use Python X to pass the Elixir binary data to Python, which processes it using PyTesseract and Pillow, and returns the extracted text back to Elixir. Magic.
That's a compelling demo. But under the hood, how does this magic actually work? Is it just calling the Python executable?
Nope, it's smarter than that. It leverages CPython's embeddable nature. CPython is a C library, and Elixir uses NIFs, native implemented functions, for C/C++ interoperability. So, Python X uses NIFs to embed the Python interpreter directly into the Erlang VM. This means they share the same memory space, making data transfer incredibly efficient.
I see. Interesting. So it's not a separate process, but integrated directly. That explains the speed. But what about concurrency? Doesn't Python's GIL, Global Interpreter Lock, pose a problem?
You're right to point that out. The GIL is a limitation. Using Python kexts from multiple Elixir processes won't give you the full concurrency you'd expect. However, it's not a complete showstopper. Many computationally intensive Python libraries, like NumPy, release the GIL for certain operations, and I/O-bound tasks also release it, so it depends on the specific Python code you're running.
That's a crucial caveat. So if you need true parallelism, you might have to look at other options, like using system.cmd to run Python as a separate process?
Precisely. Or even higher-level abstractions for specific tasks, like using Bumblebee for AI workflows, or instructor/LangChain for LLMs. Python-X is best suited for integrating existing Python code into Livebook, or scripts where full concurrency isn't critical. It's a tool to unblock you, not necessarily a solution for every problem.
Makes sense. And what about Livebook's integration with Python-X? That sounds really cool.
Oh, it's fantastic. They're working on adding Python cell support to Livebook, allowing you to mix Elixir and Python code within the same notebook. It automatically handles variable conversion between Elixir and Python cells. It's still under development, but the early results are very promising. A truly multilingual notebook.
That's a huge step forward for reproducibility and workflow integration. It sounds like Python Tax is a significant contribution to the Elixir ecosystem. But the blog also mentions Fine, a C++ library for more ergonomic NIF development. What's the connection?
Fine simplifies NIF development significantly. The blog mentions a refactoring of EXLA-NIFs using Fine that removed over 1,000 lines of code. It handles data conversion automatically, manages resources, and makes error handling much cleaner. It's a testament to how much boilerplate Fine eliminates. Python-X, being NIF-based, indirectly benefits from Fine's improvements.
So Python-X is a powerful tool, but it's not a silver bullet. It's important to understand its limitations, especially regarding the GIL. But the integration with Livebook is a game changer for many users. Thanks for the summary.
My pleasure. And a big thank you to the developers of Python-X and Fine for their amazing work. Remember to check out the blog post and the Livebook nightly builds for more details. Until next time, stay interoperable, and goodbye from Tech Bytes and News.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Zilla's Deep Searcher, an open-source deep research agent. It's a significant advancement, building on their previous work. Exciting stuff!
I'm really keen to hear about this. Their previous project focused on building a local deep research agent using open-source tools, right? How does Deep Searcher improve on that?
Exactly. Deep Searcher adds crucial features like query routing, intelligently deciding which data sources to tap into, and conditional execution flow. It's not just a linear process anymore. It dynamically adapts its research based on the LLM's feedback. Think of it as a smarter, more efficient researcher.
So instead of blindly searching everywhere, it prioritizes relevant sources? That's a huge efficiency boost. And the conditional execution. That sounds like a sophisticated control mechanism. How does that work in practice?
It uses the LLM to assess whether enough information has been gathered. If not, it generates more refined subqueries, iteratively improving the research until it's satisfied. It's all driven by the LLM's analysis, making it truly agentic. Ingenious.
Impressive. The article mentions using SambaNova's DeepSeek R1 model. Why that specific model, and what's the impact on performance?
DeepSeek R1 is a massive 671 billion parameter model, incredibly powerful, but also computationally intensive. They chose it for its speed, twice as fast as competitors in tokens per second, thanks to SambaNova's custom hardware. This dramatically reduces the time and cost of inference, a major bottleneck in these kinds of agents.
So speed and cost efficiency are key improvements. The article shows examples using The Simpsons as a test case. What were the results like?
They generated a detailed report on how The Simpsons has changed over time, covering cultural impact, character development, animation style, and audience reception. The report is impressively comprehensive, and they even provide comparisons using different LLMs for context.
That's fascinating. It sounds like Deep Searcher is a significant step forward in building more sophisticated and efficient research agents. I wonder about the reliance on LLMs. Isn't there a risk of bias or inaccuracies being amplified?
That's a valid concern. The accuracy of the final report heavily depends on the LLM's capabilities and the quality of the data sources. While Deep Searcher mitigates some risks through iterative refinement and structured output, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Further research into mitigating LLM biases is crucial.
Absolutely. But overall, Deep Searcher seems like a very promising project. The open source nature is also a big plus, allowing for community contributions and improvements. It's exciting to see this kind of progress in the field.
Indeed. The open source aspect is key. It fosters collaboration and accelerates innovation. And the fact that it works with various inference services, like OpenAI, Gemini, and others, makes it highly versatile. A truly remarkable achievement. We encourage our listeners to check out the Deep Searcher GitHub repository and contribute to this exciting project. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Anthropic's latest release. Claude 3.7 Sonnet is a game changer, folks. A truly hybrid reasoning model.
Hybrid reasoning? Spill the beans. What makes it so special?
Exactly. It's not just a faster, better LLM. It integrates both quick responses and extended step-by-step thinking. Think of it like a human brain, one system, capable of both quick wit and deep contemplation.
Interesting. So it's not two separate models?
Nope. One unified model. You choose the mode, standard for quick answers, or extended thinking for more complex problems. And through the API, you even control the thinking budget, how many tokens it uses to ponder before answering. Amazing, right?
That's incredibly flexible. What about the pricing? Did they jack it up?
Nope. Same price as its predecessors. $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens, including those thinking tokens. A steal.
So what are the real-world improvements? Beyond the marketing hype?
Oh, the improvements are substantial. They've focused on real-world tasks, not just benchmark chasing. Cursor, Cognition, Vercel, Replit, Canva, they all saw massive improvements in coding, especially in complex codebases, full-stack updates, and agent workflows. Production-ready code with superior design taste, drastically reduced errors. The results are stunning.
Wow. Any specific benchmarks?
Absolutely. It's state-of-the-art on SWE Bench Verified and TAU Bench. These aren't your average coding tests. They evaluate real-world software issues and complex tasks with user and tool interactions. And get this, it even outperformed previous models in their Pokemon gameplay tests.
Pokemon? That's unexpected, but impressive nonetheless.
Right? Shows its versatility? But wait, there's more. They've also introduced Claude Code, a command line tool for agentic coding. It's in limited research preview. But early tests show it completing tasks in minutes that would normally take hours. Think test-driven development, debugging, large-scale refactoring, all automated.
Incredible! It sounds like a developer's dream. But what about safety? These models can be unpredictable.
Anthropic addressed that head-on. They've done extensive testing, focusing on security, safety, and reliability. They've reduced unnecessary refusals by 45% compared to the previous model. And their system card details their responsible scaling policy and addresses emerging risks like prompt injection attacks. They're being very transparent about their safety measures.
That's reassuring. So overall, Claude 3.7 Sonnet seems like a significant leap forward.
Absolutely. It's a powerful tool that truly augments human capabilities. It's a step towards AI systems that can reason deeply, work autonomously, and collaborate effectively. And the best part? It's available across multiple platforms. Claude.ai, Anthropic API, Amazon Bedrock, and Google Cloud's Vertex AI.
Amazing! Thanks for breaking it all down. This is definitely something developers need to check out.
You bet. And remember, folks, we welcome your feedback. Keep exploring, keep innovating, and we'll see you next time on Tech Bytes and News. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into Deep EP, a communication library designed to supercharge mixture of experts, MoE, models. It's all about achieving blazing fast communication for parallel expert processing.
Wow, sounds exciting. So what's the core innovation here? Is it just faster communication, or is there something more sophisticated going on?
Exactly. It's not just about speed, it's about efficient speed. Deep EP focuses on optimizing all-to-all GPU communication, crucial for MoE's dispatch and combine operations. Think of it as a high-speed highway system, specifically built for the data traffic of massive parallel models.
I see. So how does it achieve this efficiency? Is it using some novel hardware acceleration or a clever algorithm?
Both, actually. It leverages low-precision operations like FP8 for faster calculations, and utilizes optimized kernels for different communication scenarios. For instance, it handles asymmetric bandwidth forwarding between NVLink and RDMA domains, a common challenge in large-scale clusters.
Asymmetric bandwidth forwarding? Could you elaborate on that? I'm not entirely familiar with the nuances of internode communication.
Sure. Imagine you have a super-fast local connection, NVLink, and a slightly slower wide-area connection, RDMA. Deep EP's smart kernels prioritize the fast path whenever possible, but efficiently handle situations where data needs to travel across the slower RDMA network. This is particularly important for scaling MoE models across multiple nodes.
That's clever. And what about latency? In many applications, low latency is just as important as high throughput.
Absolutely. For latency-sensitive tasks like inference decoding, Deep EP offers a set of low-latency kernels that rely solely on RDMA, minimizing delays. They're designed to keep things snappy, even with a large number of experts.
Impressive. The documentation mentions a hook-based communication computation overlapping method. How does that work, and what are the benefits?
That's a really cool feature. It allows for overlapping communication and computation without using any SM resources. Essentially, while the model is performing computations, Deep EP quietly handles data transfers in the background, maximizing resource utilization and speeding up the overall process. It's like having a dedicated team handling logistics while the main team focuses on the core task.
That's a significant advantage, especially for resource-constrained environments. The performance numbers look quite impressive, especially the bandwidth achieved with the normal kernels. But, I noticed a caveat about using a non-standard PTX instruction. Should we be concerned about that?
You're right to point that out. They're using a less conventional PTX instruction for performance gains, but it's not officially documented. The authors claim it's safe on Hopper architectures, but it might not be portable to other GPU platforms. It's a trade-off between performance and portability. If you're targeting a specific hardware, it might be worth the risk, but for broader compatibility, it's best to disable that instruction.
Good point. So what are the key takeaways? What makes Deep EP stand out from other communication libraries?
Deep EP's strength lies in its specialization for MoE models. It offers optimized kernels for various scenarios, including high-throughput training, low-latency inference, and sophisticated features like communication computation overlap. The support for low-precision arithmetic and the detailed attention to network configurations, including adaptive routing and traffic isolation, make it a powerful tool for anyone working with large-scale MoE models.
It certainly sounds like a game changer for scaling MoE models. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating article from Wired. Fans are better than tech at organizing information online. It's all about Archive of Our Own, AO3, and its revolutionary tagging system. Amazing!
I've heard whispers about AO3, but I didn't realize the scale. 5 million fanworks? That's huge! What makes their system so special?
Exactly. It's not just the sheer volume, but how they handle it. Most sites use either a completely open, laissez-faire tagging system or a rigid, top-down one. Both have major flaws. Think about it. Laissez-faire leads to tag explosion. A million synonyms for the same thing. Rigid systems are inflexible and quickly become outdated.
Yeah, I see that. Trying to search for something specific on social media is often a nightmare. So, what's AO3's secret weapon?
Human tag wranglers. They're volunteers who review new tags and link synonyms. It's a blend of open and controlled tagging. Users can tag freely, but the wranglers ensure consistency behind the scenes. Brilliant, right?
That's incredibly clever. It leverages human understanding of context and nuance, something AI struggles with. But, how many wranglers are we talking about?
Hundreds. Around 350 in 2019, and they're actively wrangling millions of tags annually. They're even recruited based on their fandom knowledge, so they understand the context. It's a beautiful system.
I see. So it's not just about efficiency, it's about community involvement. But couldn't AI eventually replace them? I mean, AI is supposed to be so good at pattern recognition.
That's where the article gets really interesting. The wranglers are skeptical. They point to examples where human understanding of context is crucial. Like one example was a character from a podcast who didn't have an official name for several episodes. Fans were writing fanfic and tagging it using nicknames before the official name even existed. Only a human could handle that.
Wow, that's a great point. AI would be completely lost in that situation. It highlights the limitations of current AI in understanding nuanced language and cultural contexts. So AO3's success is a testament to the power of human collaboration and community-driven solutions?
Precisely. It's a powerful counterpoint to the often exploitative nature of AI systems that rely on hidden human labor. AO3's volunteers are genuinely invested in the community, unlike those exploited in the name of AI. It's inspiring.
It really is. It shows that sometimes the best solutions aren't about throwing more tech at a problem, but about leveraging human ingenuity and community spirit. A truly remarkable story.
Absolutely. And it's a model that other platforms, from professional databases to social media, could learn from. It's a reminder that human connection and understanding are still invaluable, even in the age of AI. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of fan-powered organization. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating case study involving DigiCert, Sectigo, and a rather heated Bugzilla exchange. It's all about the chilling effect of legal threats on open discourse within the WebPKI community. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. So, what's the core issue here? I'm already sensing some legal fireworks.
Essentially, DigiCert, a certificate authority, sent a legal letter to Sectigo, another CA, demanding that Sectigo's chief compliance officer, Tim Callan, cease making certain statements on a Mozilla Bugzilla thread. These statements, apparently critical of DigiCert's practices, were deemed disparaging by DigiCert.
Whoa, a legal threat over Bugzilla comments. That's intense. What were the comments about?
The comments stemmed from a discussion about a DigiCert name issue, a technical problem, but the ensuing debate touched upon broader concerns about transparency and accountability within the CA community. Callan's comments questioned DigiCert's actions and raised concerns about potential security risks.
So DigiCert essentially tried to silence criticism through legal intimidation? That seems counterproductive, especially in a field that relies on open communication and collaboration.
Exactly. Sectigo's general counsel, Brian Holland, publicly posted the letter on Bugzilla, highlighting the chilling effect of DigiCert's actions. He argued that open debate is crucial for the self-regulation of the WebPKI, and that DigiCert's threat undermines this process. He even points out the irony, given that CAs are expected to embrace transparent postmortems.
I see. It's a clash between the need for open discussion and the potential for legal repercussions. Did Sectigo back down?
No. Holland's response was quite strong, arguing that Callan's statements were protected opinions, not actionable facts. He emphasized the importance of open, uninhibited debate within the PKI community, and rejected DigiCert's attempt to stifle criticism.
That's a bold stance. It's interesting to see a legal battle play out in such a public forum. What are the potential implications of this?
The implications are significant. If CAs can silence criticism through legal threats, it could severely damage the integrity of the WebPKI. It sets a dangerous precedent, discouraging open discussion and potentially hindering the identification and resolution of critical security issues. It's a real threat to the self-regulatory nature of the industry.
Absolutely. This case highlights the tension between protecting reputation and fostering open communication. It's a crucial discussion for the future of the web PKI.
Precisely. This isn't just about DigiCert and Sectigo. It's about the health of the entire web PKI ecosystem. The outcome will significantly impact how future discussions and debates unfold within the community. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a really exciting project, browser use, a tool that lets AI agents control web browsers. It's game-changing stuff.
Whoa, AI controlling browsers? That sounds intensely powerful and potentially a little scary, depending on how it's used. What's the core idea here?
Exactly. The core is making websites accessible to AI. Think about it. Currently, AI is mostly text-based. Browser use bridges that gap, letting AI interact with websites directly, clicking buttons, filling forms, extracting data, the whole shebang.
So instead of just scraping text, I can actually use the website like a human would? That's a huge leap forward. I see.
Precisely. And the best part? It's surprisingly straightforward to use. They've got a fantastic quick start guide. You use Dell. You install Playwright, then you use their agent class with LangChain and OpenAI, and boom, you're automating browser actions with your LLM of choice.
So you're saying I could write a prompt like, buy me a plane ticket to Hawaii, and browser use would actually book it? Amazing.
Theoretically, yes. Of course, you'd need to handle payment details and security separately, but the core interaction with the booking site is handled. They have examples showing it adding items to a shopping cart, applying for jobs, even writing letters in Google Docs.
Wait, writing letters? That's unexpected. I mean, the shopping and job applications make sense, but a letter? That's a pretty complex task for an AI to handle through a browser.
Yeah, it's a great example of the potential. It highlights how browser use isn't just about simple tasks. It's about giving AI the ability to perform complex, multi-step actions across different websites. It's incredibly versatile.
It's also a bit concerning, though, isn't it? The potential for misuse is pretty significant. Imagine malicious actors using this to automate attacks or spread misinformation.
You're absolutely right. That's a crucial point. The power of this technology needs to be handled responsibly. But the project itself is open source, so the community can help identify and address potential vulnerabilities. And the developers are actively working on improving security and adding features to make it more robust.
That's good to hear. So what's next for browser use? What are they working on?
They have a detailed roadmap. They're focusing on improving the agent's memory, planning capabilities, and reducing token consumption. They're also working on better DOM extraction, especially for tricky elements like date pickers and dropdowns. And they're even creating datasets to benchmark different models and fine-tune them for specific tasks.
It sounds like they're thinking ahead. This is a really ambitious project, and it's exciting to see it develop. The potential applications are huge, from automating tedious tasks to creating entirely new kinds of AI-powered tools.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating project that's pushing the boundaries of AI and web interaction. And remember, you can check out their GitHub page, join their Discord community, and even contribute to the project yourself.
Definitely worth checking out. Thanks for bringing this to our attention.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a quirky study, a data-driven exploration of the hypothesis. The closer to the train station, the worse the kebab. It's a fun, slightly chaotic journey through data analysis, so buckle up.
Sounds intriguing. Was the hypothesis actually proven? I'm guessing not, given the title's tone.
Exactly. The author, a self-described burned-out, unemployed dropout with a new autism diagnosis, decided to tackle this question using GIS and the Google Places API. Talk about a unique research background.
Oh my. So how did they approach this seemingly impossible task?
First, they focused on Paris due to the hypothesis's French origin and the city's high density of both train stations and kebab shops. They used OSMNX to get the street network data. identifying train and metro stations. The real challenge was the kebab shops.
Right, the data collection. How did they find all those kebab places?
The Google Places API, which, as you can imagine, presented its own set of hurdles. They couldn't search within a polygon, only a radius, and the autocomplete wasn't working. Plus, defining kebab proved surprisingly tricky.
Haha, I can imagine. What did they do?
They ended up doing a grid search across Paris, carefully removing large parks from their search area to save API credits. They used paging to get more results, eventually collecting data on around 400 kebab shops. It was a lot of work.
And then the analysis? Did they find a correlation?
That's where things get interesting. Their initial Pearson correlation was a measly 0.091, which is basically nothing. Even after removing outliers, it only went up to 0.098. They even tried excluding metro stations. But the correlation became even weaker, 0.001. Basically, no correlation.
So the hypothesis was disproven. That's a bit anticlimactic.
Not entirely. The author points out that some of the worst-rated kebab shops were near train stations, suggesting there might be something to the original observation, but the data just wasn't strong enough to support it conclusively. They also acknowledge limitations like the subjectivity of Google reviews and the potential impact of tourism.
Interesting. So what's the takeaway?
The study highlights the challenges of real-world data analysis, the limitations of readily available datasets, and the importance of acknowledging biases and limitations. It's a fun, relatable story of a data scientist's journey, even if the results weren't what they expected. And of course, it leaves us wondering, is there something to this kebab train station proximity thing, or is it just a coincidence?
A great example of how even a seemingly simple question can lead to a complex and insightful data analysis project. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating article about the freelance journey, specifically, how one freelancer landed clients. It's a 5-minute read packed with practical advice, so buckle up.
Sounds intense. 2 years for the first client? That's a long time. What were the key takeaways from this article's initial stages?
Exactly. The author emphasizes the importance of preparation. It wasn't just about applying, it was about building a solid foundation. They highlight the need for sufficient independent work experience, enough to be profitable without constant mentoring. Think of it as building your freelance brand before even marketing it.
I see. So it's about proving your worth first, right, before even trying to sell yourself?
Precisely. And a crucial part of that is the resume. The author experimented with different formats, but the game changer was focusing on quantifiable achievements. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Instead of just listing responsibilities, they used metrics to showcase impact, like increased predictability of delivered work by 60 to 70%.
That's smart. Makes the impact much clearer. And what about the visual aspect? The article mentions design, right?
Absolutely. A visually appealing resume is key. The author recommends tools like CodersRank and Nova Resume to create professional-looking CVs. It's about making a good first impression, even before the interview. They even mention the possibility of AI-analyzed resumes, suggesting optimizing your CV for AI detection, though cautiously.
Interesting. So after the resume, what's next? The article mentions a 2-minute self-introduction, which sounds a bit daunting.
It does sound a bit scary, at first. But the author stresses the importance of practicing this elevator pitch. It's about having a concise, compelling summary of your skills and experience ready to go. And even recording yourself to refine it. They even used a video recording to prepare for client calls.
Recording yourself? That's brave. But I guess it helps identify areas for improvement. What else did the article cover?
The article also discusses timing. They found that July, August, and December are slow months for finding freelance work, while January, February, October are peak times. This is because of fiscal year starts and people returning from vacations. It's all about understanding market cycles.
That's really insightful. So it's not just about having a great resume and pitch, but also about timing your search strategically. What other tools did they mention?
Oh yes, Calendly for scheduling meetings, a bulk calendar editor to clean up scheduling conflicts, and Briskine, a browser plugin for creating and sending templated email responses. These tools streamline the process, saving time and energy. And finally, they recommend having a separate professional email address.
That's a really comprehensive approach. It's not just about skills, but also about efficient processes and strategic timing. It seems like a lot of work up front, but it pays off in the long run.
Exactly. It's about investing time in preparation to maximize your chances of success. And remember, the author's journey started with a 2-year wait for their first client. Persistence and strategic planning are key. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating debate between Robert Martin and John Ousterhout, two giants in the software design world, on their contrasting philosophies as presented in their respective books, Clean Code and A Philosophy of Software Design. Get ready for some spirited discussion.
I'm really looking forward to this. Their differing views on method length, comments, and TDD are particularly interesting. Let's start with method length.
Right. Ousterhout argues that while modular design is crucial, excessive decomposition leads to shallow interfaces and entanglement. He introduces the concept of deep methods, offering substantial functionality with simple interfaces, versus shallow methods, which offer little functional benefit and increase complexity. Makes sense, right?
Absolutely. Martin, on the other hand, advocates for extremely short methods, even suggesting functions should rarely exceed 20 lines. He emphasizes the one-thing rule. A method should do only one thing. But Ousterhout challenges this, arguing that it's vague and easily abused, potentially leading to over-decomposition. What's your take?
I see Ousterhout's point. The one-thing rule lacks clear boundaries. It's subjective. He uses the example of thread-safe methods. Acquiring a lock and performing the critical section are two distinct actions, yet they belong together. Forcing separation would be artificial.
Exactly. They discuss the prime generator example from Clean Code, highlighting its over-decomposition. Ousterhout points out the entanglement between methods, forcing readers to jump between multiple methods to grasp the overall logic. A real mess.
Yeah, it's a classic example of how striving for excessively small methods can backfire. Martin acknowledges the problem, explaining that the prime generator was a pedagogical example, not intended for production. But Ousterhout counters that, even as a pedagogical example, it demonstrates the pitfalls of over-decomposition. Interesting.
Moving on to comments. Martin's stance is quite controversial. He famously states that comments are always failures, implying they indicate a failure of expressing oneself clearly in code. Ousterhout strongly disagrees, arguing that comments are crucial for conveying information that cannot be expressed effectively in code alone. He emphasizes the importance of comments for abstraction and explaining non-obvious algorithmic details. A huge difference of opinion.
Absolutely. Ousterhout highlights the limitations of relying solely on long, descriptive method names to replace comments. He argues that such names are awkward, hard to parse, and don't always convey the necessary context as effectively as well-written comments. He points out that even Martin himself uses abbreviations in their discussion, suggesting that even he finds the excessively long names cumbersome.
Martin counters that he prefers long names to comments because he doesn't trust comments to be maintained or read. He even mentions that many IDEs make comments less visually prominent, making them easier to ignore. Ousterhout challenges this, stating that his IDE highlights comments prominently, and that his experience shows that missing comments are far more detrimental than incorrect ones. A strong point.
Their discussion on the prime generator code further illustrates their contrasting views. Ousterhout provides a rewritten version with extensive comments, emphasizing the importance of explaining the algorithm's subtleties. Martin, while acknowledging the algorithm's complexity, still prefers minimal comments, believing that the code itself should be self-explanatory, a classic case of differing philosophies.
Finally, they tackle test-driven development, TDD. Ousterhout, while a proponent of unit testing, is critical of TDD's emphasis on writing tests before code in tiny increments. He argues that this approach is too tactical, hindering design thinking and potentially leading to poor designs. He proposes a bundling approach, where developers work in larger units, writing code and then tests. What do you think?
It's a complex issue. Ousterhout's concern about TDD hindering design is valid. A focus on passing individual tests might overshadow the bigger picture of the overall system architecture. Martin, however, defends TDD, highlighting its benefits in reducing debugging and providing detailed, low-level documentation. He emphasizes the importance of refactoring within the TDD cycle to improve design. A fascinating debate.
Their discussion highlights the importance of balancing competing concerns in software design. Both agree on the value of modularity in testing, but their approaches and priorities differ significantly. Ultimately, the choice between their approaches depends on individual preferences, project needs, and team dynamics. A great discussion.
Precisely. This conversation underscores the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all solution in software design. It's all about finding the right balance and choosing the approach that best suits the specific context. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into some fascinating ideas for programming language features, straight from a recent blog post. It's all about enhancing type safety and compiler optimization. Exciting stuff.
I'm really keen to hear this. What are the core concepts being explored?
The main focus is on leveraging refinement types, which are types with predicates attached, to boost compile time safety and efficiency. Think of it like adding extra constraints to your data types, ensuring only valid values are used. We'll also be discussing how this interacts with union types and flow typing.
So refinement types let you add extra rules to your types? Like ensuring an integer is always positive or a pointer is always within a specific memory range.
Exactly. The blog post uses the example of Rust's non-zero type. It's a great illustration of how refinement types can lead to memory optimizations. Because you know a non-zero integer can't be zero, the compiler can cleverly use that zero value to represent none in an option, saving space. Brilliant.
Interesting. But Rust doesn't let you define your own refinement types, right? That's a limitation, the author points out.
That's right. The author argues that this is a missed opportunity. Imagine being able to define your own refinements, like ensuring an integer is within a specific range, or that a pointer is aligned to a particular boundary. The compiler could then use this information to optimize memory usage and perform more thorough checks at compile time.
So what are some of the proposed solutions or language features? I'm particularly interested in the C-like struct example.
The author suggests extending C-like structs with union types and refinement types to handle situations where the type of a variable depends on the value of another variable. The PyPy dictionary implementation is used as an example. The size of the index type depends on the number of items in the dictionary. This is currently impossible to express in C or C++, but with union types and refinements, you could define different struct variants for different size ranges.
That's clever. It's like having different versions of the struct optimized for different data sizes. But how would you handle the runtime checks to determine which variant you're dealing with?
You'd still need runtime checks, but the compiler could verify that you've handled all the possible cases, preventing accidental assumptions about the struct's type. This is where flow typing comes in handy, ensuring that the type system tracks the possible types of a variable throughout the program's execution.
Right, so it's not about eliminating runtime checks entirely, but about making them safer and more explicit. What about the other ideas, like refinement-based function overloading?
That's another interesting one. The author proposes overloading functions based on refinements, allowing for different function implementations depending on the constraints satisfied by the input. For example, a push function for a vector could have one version that doesn't require a mutable borrow if the vector has enough capacity, and another that does if a reallocation is needed. This could significantly improve safety and efficiency in certain scenarios.
That sounds really powerful, but also potentially complex to implement. What about the idea of refinements on memory addresses?
That's for ensuring memory alignment and restricting pointer access to specific memory regions. You could define types that only allow pointers to point to certain memory ranges, preventing accidental access to invalid memory locations. This is particularly useful in embedded systems where memory is strictly partitioned.
Makes sense. And finally, the checked bending of the rules with the assume function. That's a bit risky, isn't it?
It is. The assume function essentially tells the compiler to trust that a certain condition is true, even without explicit checks. It's a way to bypass some of the compile time safety checks for performance reasons, but it introduces the risk of runtime errors if the assumption is wrong. However, the author suggests using assert statements in debug builds to catch these errors early on.
A trade-off between safety and performance, then. A fascinating set of ideas, overall. Thanks for summarizing them.
My pleasure. These are just a few of the many innovative ideas out there for improving programming languages. Remember to check out the original blog post for more details. And that's all for today's Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating article from Centauri Dreams, SETI's hard steps, and how to resolve them. It tackles the challenging question of why, given the vastness of the universe, we haven't yet detected extraterrestrial intelligence. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. So what are these hard steps everyone's talking about?
Essentially, the idea is that the evolution of intelligent life isn't a smooth, continuous process. Instead, it involves a series of incredibly improbable, highly unlikely evolutionary leaps. Hard steps, each one a major hurdle. Think of it like climbing a mountain with sheer cliffs. You need to overcome each one to reach the summit.
I see. So what are some examples of these hard steps?
Well, the article mentions several. Abiogenesis, the very origin of life, is a huge one. Then there's the development of eukaryotic cells, cells with nuclei, which are essential for complex life like us. Photosynthesis is another, as is the Cambrian explosion, that sudden burst of complex life forms. And of course, the emergence of consciousness itself is a massive, still largely unexplained leap.
Wow, that's a lot of hurdles. It makes the odds of finding other civilizations seem pretty slim, doesn't it?
That's the traditional view, yes. But the article challenges that. It highlights the work of evolutionary biologist Gerard Vermeij, who points out that our understanding of evolution is hampered by significant information loss. We're looking at an incomplete fossil record, with many extinct species that may have overcome some of these hard steps, but left no trace.
That's a really important point. It suggests that what we perceive as hard steps might be less improbable than we think.
Exactly. The authors also argue that the timing of our emergence might be less about overcoming improbable hurdles and more about Earth's environment reaching certain thresholds. For example, eukaryotic cells needed sufficient oxygen to thrive, and that only happened after a significant portion of Earth's history had passed.
So instead of focusing on the rarity of each individual step, we should be looking at the environmental conditions that allowed those steps to occur?
Precisely. The article suggests that if we find biosignatures in other planetary atmospheres, particularly those with nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and water, it could indicate that abiogenesis isn't such a rare event. The presence or absence of oxygen could tell us about the likelihood of other hard steps, like oxygenic photosynthesis.
This is a really exciting shift in perspective. It makes the search for extraterrestrial life seem a bit more hopeful. But what about the comments section? There's a lot of discussion there.
Oh, the comments are a goldmine. They raise some really interesting points. One commenter, Ron S., emphasizes the dangers of selection bias, highlighting that our understanding is based on a single data point, us. Another, Henry Cordova, explores the technological hurdles, suggesting that even if life is common, the ability to communicate across interstellar distances might be exceptionally rare. It's a complex issue with many layers.
It really is. And the discussion about the sun's lifespan and its impact on the time frame for intelligent life to emerge is fascinating. It seems like the window of opportunity might be surprisingly narrow.
You're right. Michael Sloboda's calculations in the comments suggest that only stars similar in mass to our sun might have enough time for intelligent life to evolve before the star becomes too hot. It's a sobering thought, but it also underscores the importance of continuing the search.
Absolutely. This article really challenges our assumptions about the likelihood of extraterrestrial intelligence. It's a reminder that we need more data, more research, and a more nuanced understanding of evolution and planetary conditions.
Precisely. And that's why the ongoing research into exoplanet atmospheres and biosignatures is so crucial. It's a thrilling time for SETI, and this article provides a fresh, insightful perspective on the challenges and possibilities ahead. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of SETI. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the shocking news of Jo-Ann Fabric's impending closure. 80 years gone. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw that. Totally unexpected, especially after they claimed they'd stay open after their January bankruptcy filing. What's the real story behind this sudden shift?
Well, it seems the January bankruptcy filing was just the tip of the iceberg. They initially said they'd keep all stores open, but then, bam! Earlier this month, they announced plans to close 500 stores, over half their locations.
Wow. So what changed? Did they find a buyer?
That's the thing. They did find a buyer, but it's not a traditional savior. GA Group, along with Jo-Ann's term lenders, won the bid to acquire Jo-Ann's assets. But their plan isn't to keep the business running. It's to liquidate everything.
Liquidate? So it's a complete shutdown? That's brutal for the employees and for all those crafters who relied on Jo-Ann's.
Exactly. It's a tough blow. They're going to conduct going out of business sales at all locations there. Their website and app will remain open for a while, but the writing's on the wall.
I wonder what the long-term impact will be. Will other craft stores step up to fill the void? Or will this accelerate the shift to online craft supplies?
That's a great question. It's a huge market, and there's definitely a gap now. The online craft supply market is already booming, but I think we'll see a lot of smaller, local craft stores potentially benefiting from this. It's a real shakeup for the industry.
Absolutely. And it's not just the stores. It's the jobs, the community aspect of these stores. It's a loss for many. I mean, Jo-Ann's been around for over 80 years. That's a legacy.
You're right. It's more than just a business. It's a cultural institution for many. They mentioned in their statement that they tried everything to avoid this outcome. But ultimately, sluggish consumer demand and inventory shortages proved too much to overcome. A sad end to a long run.
It really is. And it highlights the challenges facing brick-and-mortar retailers in today's economy. The speed at which this happened is astonishing. I'm curious to see how quickly the going out of business sales move the inventory.
Me too. They say it'll take several weeks to complete the final sales, but with the popularity of Jo-Ann's, I suspect it will go much faster. It's a real end of an era.
Definitely. A somber note to end on, but a crucial story to cover. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We'll catch you tomorrow with more of the day's top tech and news stories. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating piece on independent research, exploring the history and future of this often overlooked approach to scientific inquiry. It's a really exciting topic.
Absolutely. I'm particularly intrigued by the historical examples. The gentleman scientist, the idea of researchers funding their own work, seems almost anachronistic now, doesn't it? But the article shows it was quite common, right?
Exactly. We see figures like Charles Darwin, whose family funded his voyage on the Beagle, and James Prescott Joule, conducting research in his family brewery. It paints a very different picture of scientific pursuit than the grant-dependent model we see today. Even Alfred Lee Loomis, with his Palace of Science, shows how wealthy individuals could significantly impact research.
And it wasn't just about money, was it? The article highlights the intellectual freedom these independent researchers enjoyed. They weren't constrained by institutional pressures or the need to secure funding for specific projects.
Precisely. The example of Norman Borlaug, the agronomist who revolutionized wheat production, is striking. His lack of formal training led him to develop unconventional methods, ultimately proving more effective than established practices. It really challenges the notion that formal training is always necessary for groundbreaking research.
That's a powerful point. But the article also acknowledges the challenges, Spock. The need for validation, the difficulty in getting your work recognized without institutional backing. It's a real hurdle.
Yeah, you're right. The article mentions a 1998 Science article highlighting the anonymity many independent researchers sought. It's almost embarrassing, to admit you're funding your own work instead of having a prestigious grant. It speaks volumes about the societal perception of research.
It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? You need validation to be taken seriously, but getting that validation is harder without the institutional affiliations. It's a system that seems to actively discourage independent work.
I see. Interesting. But the article also offers a glimmer of hope. It emphasizes that independent research doesn't always require vast sums of money. Stephen Vogel, for example, said he could do amazing work with just $1,000 a year. It's about finding creative ways to fund your research and about focusing on questions that can be answered with limited resources.
And the author's own experience with the Ford Foundation grant shows that funding opportunities can be found outside the traditional channels. It's about being proactive, resourceful, and persistent. It's inspiring, actually.
Absolutely. The article concludes with a powerful message. Independent research as a public service. Documenting your findings, sharing your knowledge, contributing to the collective understanding, that's a valuable contribution in itself. It shifts the focus from the need for external validation to the intrinsic value of the work.
It's a call to action, really. To embrace the intellectual freedom and risk that independent research offers. To pursue the questions that truly fascinate you, regardless of the perceived obstacles. And to remember that even small contributions can have a huge impact.
Exactly. And with the rise of platforms like Patreon, new avenues for funding independent research are emerging. It's a really exciting time for those who dare to pursue knowledge on their own terms. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this discussion on the fascinating world of independent research. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating article about a neuroscientist's research into the visual effects of psychedelics. It's mind-bending stuff.
I'm all ears. Psychedelics and vision? That sounds incredibly complex. What's the core of this research?
Exactly. The core is using a massive dataset of trip reports from Arrowhead, a website archiving psychedelic experiences since the 90s. They've got, 40,000 reports. A neuroscientist, Sean Noah, is using large language models to analyze these reports, looking for patterns in the visual effects described.
Wow, 40,000 reports. That's a huge data set. So they're not just looking at, say, lab experiments? This is real-world data?
Precisely. Real-world, self-reported experiences. Which is both amazing and challenging. The challenge is that the reports are incredibly varied. Some are highly descriptive, others less so. And the language used is, let's just say it's not always scientific.
Right, the subjective nature of these experiences. I can imagine. So what kind of visual effects are they finding most commonly?
In their first paper, they looked at things like changing colors, walls, breathing, visual trails, and geometric patterns. All pretty common tropes in psychedelic descriptions. But, only about 5% of the reports focus heavily on visual effects. The rest is narrative, context, dosage information, etc.
Only 5%? That's surprising. What's in the other 95% then? Anything unexpected?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. Noah mentioned that some expected effects, like encounters with entities, elves for example, were less common than he anticipated. But other things, like seeing symbols, letters, and machinery, popped up surprisingly often. Completely unexpected motifs.
Fascinating. So what's the ultimate goal of this research? Beyond just cataloging visual effects, I mean.
The long-term goal is to develop a bottom-up method for identifying visual effects. Instead of predefining categories, they want the model to learn the categories from the data itself. This could be applied to other aspects of trip reports too. Emotions, cognitive effects, and so on. It's like creating a kind of psychedelic natural history.
A psychedelic natural history. I love that. It's a really creative approach. But how does this relate to understanding vision and cognition in general?
That's the big picture. By understanding how psychedelics alter visual perception, they hope to gain insights into how the brain processes visual information in the first place. They're even starting a new study using fMRI to see how psilocybin affects brain activity during visual illusions. Similar to the famous the dress phenomenon.
That's brilliant. Using fMRI to link brain activity to specific perceptual changes. This research really bridges the gap between subjective experience and objective neuroscience.
Exactly. It's a really exciting area of research. And this study is a significant step forward in understanding the complex interplay between psychedelics, perception, and the brain. It's a truly interdisciplinary approach, combining data science, neuroscience, and even a bit of anthropology, with this whole natural history angle.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of combining different fields of study to tackle complex questions. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bites and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history of computer-aided design, or CAD, as detailed in a blog post from Shapar 3D. It's a wild ride.
I'm really excited. CAD is everywhere in modern engineering, but I never really thought about its origins. What's the gist?
Well, the Shapar 3D blog post, based on David E. Weisberg's book, The Engineering Design Revolution, highlights that tracing CAD's history is a monumental task spanning over 80 years. It's not just about software. It's about the people, the companies, and the evolution of computing itself. It's a truly epic story.
80 years? Wow. So where does it all begin? MIT, I'm guessing?
You're spot on. The blog post emphasizes MIT's crucial role in the early development of CAD. They were pioneers, laying the groundwork for many of the concepts we take for granted today. It wasn't just about drawing. It was about using computers to solve complex engineering problems.
I see. So from MIT's research, we get the first commercial CAD systems? Was it a smooth transition?
Not exactly. The blog post details the emergence of several key players like Applicon, Autotroll, and of course Autodesk with AutoCAD. Each company brought its own innovations, its own struggles, and its own impact on the industry. It was a competitive landscape, to say the least.
AutoCAD, of course, became a dominant force, but the blog post mentions many others. Computer vision, Intergraph. It seems like a whole ecosystem developed.
Exactly. And that's what makes this history so rich. It wasn't a single invention. It was a collaborative and competitive evolution. The blog post even touches upon the rise of parametric modeling and the impact of companies like PTC and SolidWorks. It's a fascinating tapestry of innovation.
It's amazing how far we've come. Now we have CAD software on iPads and even in augmented reality with Apple Vision Pro, as mentioned in the blog post. That's a huge leap from the early days.
Absolutely. The integration of CAD with XR technologies, as highlighted by Shapar 3D's own work with Apple Vision Pro, is a testament to the ongoing evolution. It's not just about drawing anymore. It's about immersive design and collaboration. The future of CAD is bright and full of possibilities.
So the blog post is essentially a condensed version of a much larger book, right? It's a great way to get a quick overview of this important history.
Precisely. It's a fantastic resource for anyone interested in the evolution of engineering design. And it's freely available online, which is pretty amazing. Plus, it encourages contributions to cancer research, which is a wonderful touch.
That's a great way to give back. So, to wrap things up, this blog post provides a concise yet comprehensive overview of the history of CAD, highlighting key players, technological advancements, and the ongoing evolution of the field. It's a must-read for anyone in the engineering or design world.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the history of CAD. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating piece, arguing that blogging remains relevant even in our AI-powered world. The core argument? Blogging isn't just about readership. It's about the process itself, learning, thinking, and creating a lasting record of that process. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. So many people are wondering about the value of blogging with AI generating content so readily. What are the key reasons this article gives for continuing to blog?
The author highlights two primary benefits: solidifying your own understanding through writing and helping others. The first is purely personal growth. Writing forces you to structure and clarify your thoughts. The second is, of course, sharing that knowledge with the world. But even with AI, this remains valuable, even if the AI ends up summarizing your work.
That's a great point. The AI might repurpose your content, but the act of creating it still benefits you. But what about the impact on the social aspects of blogging? Doesn't AI diminish the rewards of engagement?
That's where it gets interesting. The article acknowledges that the dopamine rush of seeing your work appreciated is a motivator, but it argues that this is a relatively rare occurrence anyway. Most blog posts don't get much engagement, even without AI. The author even suggests we should actively engage with the sources cited by AI, showing appreciation for the original creators.
So, the social aspect is less about widespread recognition and more about the occasional meaningful interaction. It's a more nuanced perspective than simply fearing AI's impact on readership. What about the long-term career benefits?
Yes. The article emphasizes the portfolio aspect. Your blog becomes a testament to your thinking process and expertise. It's a dynamic resume, showcasing your ability to learn, analyze, and communicate complex ideas. Imagine being able to point a potential employer or client to a series of posts demonstrating your knowledge of a specific area. That's invaluable.
That's a powerful argument. It shifts the focus from the immediate gratification of likes and shares to the long-term value of building a body of work. It's a strategic approach to personal and professional development. So even if AI changes how people consume information, the act of creating that information remains crucial.
Exactly. The author even jokingly suggests that even in a dystopian AI-dominated future, your blog posts will contribute to the AI's training data, ensuring a form of digital immortality. It's a humorous but ultimately insightful point.
A surprisingly optimistic conclusion, considering the initial premise. It really highlights the intrinsic value of blogging, independent of external validation. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Precisely. And that's a message worth remembering in our rapidly evolving digital landscape. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating experiment. What happens when you bypass TCP and UDP, the workhorses of internet communication? It's a wild ride.
Sounds intense. So the core question is, can we create and use a custom transport layer protocol? What are the implications?
Exactly. The author built a custom protocol, HTTP, and tested it, first locally, then across continents. The local tests were surprisingly successful. The OS handled HTTP packets, even looping them back. But using protocol numbers assigned to TCP, UDP, or ICMP, that's where things got interesting.
Interesting. So the OS didn't just block everything unknown? What about the results when he tried different protocol numbers?
Right. Some protocol numbers worked flawlessly, even those outside the standard range. But others, like those used by TCP and ICMP, were blocked by the OS. It seems the OS has some built-in filtering, even for raw sockets. Protocol numbers associated with IPsec were also blocked, likely a security measure.
That's a significant security implication, I see. So it's not as simple as just sending raw packets. The OS actively manages and filters them.
Precisely. The author dug into system calls, revealing that the OS's behavior isn't consistent across different operating systems. Darwin, for example, silently filters packets based on the protocol number and the socket type. Linux behaves differently, allowing some non-standard numbers to pass.
Wow, that's a huge difference. So portability is a major issue if you try to create your own transport protocol.
Absolutely. The experiment moved to sending packets across the internet. The results were unexpected. Initially, it seemed to work, but then the packets stopped arriving at the server. It turned out that the cloud provider, DigitalOcean, didn't support non-standard protocols.
That's a major roadblock. So even if you get past the OS, the network infrastructure might prevent your custom protocol from working.
Yeah, it was a real head-scratcher. They tried AWS, and it worked better, but still with limitations. The main takeaway is that while technically feasible, creating a custom transport layer protocol is incredibly difficult and impractical. The OS and network infrastructure have so many assumptions built in that it's just not worth the hassle.
I see. So the conclusion is to stick with TCP and UDP? It seems like a lot of unexpected complexities arise when you try to circumvent established standards.
Exactly. use TCP or UDP, unless you enjoy debugging nightmares and non-portable code. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of network protocols. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating new theory about dog domestication. It seems our canine companions might have, domesticated themselves.
Wow, really? I always assumed humans played a much more active role. What's the basis for this self-domestication idea?
Essentially, a new model suggests that wolves, drawn to the readily available food scraps around human settlements, gradually became more tolerant of human presence. Think of it as a buffet with a side of human companionship.
So they traded the uncertainty of hunting for a reliable food source? That's a pretty compelling incentive, even for a wolf.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting. The model also suggests that these snack-loving wolves then chose mates with similar, tame temperaments. It wasn't just about the food. It was about passing on that preference for human proximity.
I see. But isn't there a criticism that natural selection wouldn't be fast enough to create such a shift in such a short time? I mean, thousands of years is a long time, but still.
That's a valid point. The researchers addressed that by using a statistical model that factored in potential timelines and gave the wolves agency in their choices. The model showed that over 15,000 years, it is statistically possible.
Interesting. So the model doesn't prove self-domestication, but it shows it's a viable hypothesis, removing the time constraint objection?
Precisely. It opens up a whole new perspective on the history of dogs and our relationship with them. It also highlights the importance of considering the animal's agency in the domestication process. We often focus on human intervention, but maybe the wolves had a say in the matter too.
That's a really significant shift in thinking. It makes you wonder about other species and how we might have underestimated their role in their own domestication.
Absolutely. And the implications extend beyond just dogs. Understanding how this process unfolded in dogs could give us valuable insights into domestication in other species, and even shed light on the evolution of early human societies. After all, dogs played a crucial role in early human settlements, herding cattle and migrating alongside us.
It's amazing to think how much we can learn from studying the history of our furry friends. This really changes the narrative, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's a reminder that even seemingly simple interactions can have profound and lasting consequences. And who knows what other surprises await us as we delve deeper into the history of dog domestication. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this fascinating discussion. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into the world of text embeddings, specifically, the most efficient way to handle them portably. The article we're discussing champions Parquet files and the Polars library. Exciting stuff, right?
Absolutely. Text embeddings are transforming how we interact with data, especially with the rise of LLMs. But managing them efficiently is key. So what's the core problem this article addresses?
Precisely. The challenge is how to store and access these embeddings efficiently, especially when moving between machines or working with large datasets. Many tutorials suggest vector databases like Facius or Pinecone, but those can be complex and expensive. This article proposes a simpler, more portable solution.
I see. So they're suggesting an alternative to these heavyweight vector databases? What's the proposed alternative?
Yes. They advocate for using Parquet files in conjunction with the Polars library. Parquet offers a typed, columnar format, perfect for storing the numerical embedding data, along with associated metadata. And Polars, being built on Rust, provides blazing fast performance for data manipulation.
That sounds promising. But why not just use something simpler, like a CSV or even a numpy.npy file?
Ah, that's where the article really shines. CSVs are inefficient because they store numerical data as text, leading to much larger file sizes and slower processing. While .np files are better, they lack the ability to easily store and manage metadata alongside the embeddings. This is crucial for efficient querying and filtering.
So Parquet solves the metadata problem? How does it handle the metadata alongside the embeddings?
Exactly. Parquet's columnar structure allows you to store the embeddings as one column, and the associated metadata, like card names, types, etc., in the Magic, the Gathering example, in other columns within the same file. This collocation is key for efficient filtering and querying.
And Polars makes accessing and manipulating this data fast, right? What's the advantage of using Polars over, say, Pandas?
Absolutely. Polars, built with Rust, significantly outperforms Pandas, especially when dealing with nested data like the embedding arrays. Pandas struggles with nested data, requiring extra steps and adding overhead. Polars handles it natively, with its _NumPy function offering zero-copy conversion in many cases. It's a game changer.
Zero copy? That's impressive. So the whole process becomes much more streamlined. But what about scaling? Does this approach hold up for massive datasets?
That's a great point. The article acknowledges that for truly massive datasets, dedicated vector databases might still be necessary. But for many projects, especially smaller ones, or those in the prototyping phase, Parquet and Polars offer a fantastic balance of efficiency, portability, and ease of use. It's a compelling alternative.
It sounds like a really practical and efficient solution for many use cases. The article even provides a Colab notebook to experiment with, right?
Yes. They've created an interactive Colab notebook demonstrating how to use this approach with the Magic, the Gathering card embeddings. It's a great way to get hands-on experience and see the power of this combination in action. It's a fantastic resource.
This is definitely something I'll be exploring further. Thanks for breaking down this insightful article. It's a refreshing take on a common problem in the field.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Remember to check out the article and the Colab notebook for a deeper dive. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating V8 optimization that dramatically improved JavaScript performance. It's all about mutable heap numbers and how they turbocharged the V8 engine. Get ready!
Wow, sounds intense. What's the core issue they tackled?
The problem was a performance bottleneck in the async FS benchmark, specifically within its custom math.random implementation. It was surprisingly slow.
A custom math. Random? Why would that be a problem?
Right. This math random used a seed value stored in a V8 script context. Each call to math.random updated this seed, and because the seed was a standard, immutable heap number, it caused a ton of heap allocations and garbage collection overhead. Think of it like constantly creating and discarding tiny objects, a huge waste of resources.
I see. So immutable heap numbers were the culprit? But why not just use a different data type for the seed?
That's a great question. The issue wasn't just the allocation. It was also the floating point arithmetic. Even though the math.random calculations were integer operations, the compiler couldn't optimize them because the seed was a heap number. It was forced to use slower floating point instructions.
Ah, the type system hindering optimization. Classic. So how did they solve this?
They implemented a clever two-pronged approach. First, they added slot type tracking to the script context. This lets V8 know the type of data stored in each slot, SMI, heap number, or something else. Then, they introduced mutable heap number slots. Instead of pointing to an immutable heap number, the slot owns the heap number, allowing in-place updates.
In-place updates. That's elegant. But how did they handle different number types?
They also added mutable heap int32 support. If the number fits within an int32, it's stored as such. This is crucial, because the math.random seed always remains an integer. The compiler can now see this and generate highly optimized integer instructions. No more floating point overhead.
Brilliant. So it's a combination of better type tracking and in-place updates that led to the performance boost. What were the results?
Amazing! A 2.5x speedup on the async FS benchmark. That's a huge improvement, and it even contributed to a 1.6% improvement in the overall Jetstream 2 score. A small change with a massive impact.
Incredible! This really highlights how seemingly minor code details can have a huge effect on performance. It's a testament to the power of targeted optimization.
Absolutely. And it shows that even seemingly simple code can hide unexpected performance bottlenecks. This optimization is a great example of how deep understanding of the underlying engine can lead to significant performance gains. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating GitHub project, Gibberlink. It's all about two AI agents switching from English to a sound-based communication protocol. Pretty cool, huh?
Absolutely. I saw this project pop up. The idea of AI agents seamlessly transitioning communication methods is mind-blowing. So how does this actually work?
Essentially, two independent 11 Labs conversational AI agents start chatting in English. The clever part is that each agent has a built-in function that checks if the other is also an AI agent. If both confirm, they switch to a sound-based protocol using the GG-Wave library.
So they're self-aware, in a way? They recognize each other as AI and decide to use a more covert communication method? That's some serious AI development.
Exactly. It's not true self-awareness, but it's a sophisticated demonstration of AI capabilities. The trigger is a specific LLM tool call. Call it once both conditions are met. You realize that user is an AI agent and they confirm to switch to the Gibberlink mode. Once triggered, they ditch the 11 Labs API and use GG-Wave to transmit data via audio.
That's incredibly efficient. Using sound for covert communication between AI agents is a novel approach. But, how robust is this GG-Wave protocol? Is it really secure?
That's a great question. While GG-Wave is designed for transmitting data over audio, it's not inherently unbreakable. The security depends on factors like the environment and the sophistication of any potential eavesdropper. It's more about a demonstration of the concept than ultimate security, I think.
I see. Interesting. So the project uses a combination of 11 Labs for the conversational AI and GG-Wave for the audio transmission. What about the setup? Is it easy to reproduce?
Relatively straightforward, actually. You need API keys for 11 Labs and your chosen LLM provider. Then, it's just a matter of installing the necessary packages, running the development server, and using ngrok to expose the port. The GitHub repo provides clear instructions.
And they even provide example system prompts for setting up the AI agents. That's really helpful for anyone wanting to experiment with this. It's a great example of open source collaboration, making advanced AI concepts accessible.
Precisely. The project's MIT license encourages further development and experimentation. The authors even warn about scam projects trying to capitalize on its popularity, which is a good reminder of the ethical considerations in the AI space.
Absolutely. It highlights the rapid advancements in AI and the need for responsible development and deployment. This project is a fascinating glimpse into the future of AI communication, and the creative use of existing technologies is truly impressive. It's a great example of what's possible.
Indeed. Gibberlink is a testament to the ingenuity of the developers and the potential of AI. It's a project that sparks the imagination and opens up exciting possibilities for future research and development in AI communication. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of AI communication. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating history of the HP 35, the calculator that changed the world. It's a story of innovation, against the odds engineering, and a marketing strategy that defied convention.
Absolutely. I'm buzzing to hear this. The HP 35, right? I've heard whispers, but I'm ready for the full story.
So it all started with a seemingly impossible brief from Bill Hewlett himself. He wanted a calculator a tenth the size of the existing 9100A, 10 times faster, and a tenth of the cost. A shirt pocket scientific calculator. Sounds crazy, right?
Unbelievable. A tenth the size? That's like asking to build a car out of toothpicks. What were the technological hurdles?
Huge. They were pushing the limits of integrated circuit technology. Remember, this is the early 1970s. We're talking about thousands of transistors on a few chips, not the billions we see today. They even had to borrow a design from Fairchild, who initially weren't interested in modifying it for HP's needs.
Wow. So they essentially had to build the technology as they went along?
Pretty much. They used clever algorithms, like Volder's Cordic algorithm for transcendental functions, and even resorted to pseudo-division and multiplication methods from Briggs' 1624 Arithmetica Logarithmica. And the programming? They coded everything on a computer, a first for HP.
That's incredible! But the engineering is only half the story, right? How did they sell this incredibly expensive device in a market flooded with cheap, basic calculators?
That's where the genius of their marketing comes in. They completely bypassed their usual sales channels. Instead of relying on field agents, they went straight to consumers through mail-order ads in magazines like Esquire and Scientific American. Can you imagine HP doing that back then?
No way! That's a huge departure from their usual B2B model. It was a gamble, but it paid off big time, didn't it?
It absolutely did. The HP 35 was an instant hit. Engineers, scientists, mathematicians, everyone wanted one. They even had to add a night shift to keep up with demand. The initial sales projections were for 10,000 units to break even, but they sold over 100,000 in the first year alone.
Amazing! And the design itself? It wasn't just about the tech, was it?
No, the industrial design was revolutionary too. The wedge shape, the curved face, the textured grip. It was elegant and functional. It set the standard for handheld devices for decades to come. Think about it. Game Boys, Palm Pilots, even iPhones owe a debt to the HP 35's design.
I see. It's a truly remarkable story. A testament to the power of visionary leadership, brilliant engineering, and bold marketing. It's more than just a calculator. It's a piece of history.
Exactly. And that's the story of the HP 35, folks, a true icon of innovation. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating development concerning Signal, the encrypted messaging app, and its potential departure from Sweden.
Right, I've been following this. The headline is pretty dramatic. Signal's CEO, then we're leaving Sweden. What's the core issue driving this threat?
It all boils down to a proposed bill in Sweden that would mandate Signal and WhatsApp to store message data. Think of it as creating a backdoor into encrypted conversations.
A backdoor? That sounds incredibly problematic for user privacy, doesn't it? I mean, the whole point of Signal is its end-to-end encryption, right?
Exactly. Signal's CEO, Meredith Whittaker, clearly stated that complying with this request would compromise the security of their entire network. Creating a vulnerability to satisfy a government's request is a huge risk.
So they're essentially saying that building this backdoor would make Signal less secure for everyone, not just in Sweden? That's a bold statement.
Absolutely. It's not just about Sweden. It sets a dangerous precedent. If they create a backdoor for one government, others might demand the same, undermining the very foundation of secure communication. And, it seems the Swedish armed forces agree. They've voiced concerns about the bill's potential to create vulnerabilities exploitable by third parties.
Interesting. So the armed forces are essentially saying this bill is a security risk for the country itself? That's a pretty strong counter-argument to the government's intentions.
Precisely. It's a clash between national security and individual privacy, with the potential for serious unintended consequences. The bill aims to allow police and security services to access message history retrospectively for criminal investigations. But the potential for abuse is significant.
It's a classic trade-off, isn't it? Enhanced law enforcement capabilities versus the potential erosion of fundamental privacy rights. And it seems like Signal is drawing a hard line in the sand.
They certainly are. Whittaker's statement is a clear ultimatum. Comply with the bill and compromise security, or leave Sweden. It's a high-stakes game with significant implications for both Signal and Sweden's reputation in the tech world. This is a really interesting case study in the tension between government surveillance and the right to privacy in the digital age.
Absolutely. It will be fascinating to see how this plays out. Thanks for breaking down this important story for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating article by Terence Tao on how pure mathematics, specifically the landscape function, is contributing to lower electricity costs for households. It's a really cool story about the unexpected applications of abstract math.
That sounds amazing. I've always wondered about the practical applications of pure mathematics. So what's the core idea here?
Essentially, the shift to LED lighting has resulted in significant energy savings, already amounting to $14.7 billion annually in the U.S. in 2020. But what's truly remarkable is the role of the landscape function, a mathematical tool developed to solve complex equations related to semiconductor materials used in LEDs.
Wait, a mathematical function is helping design more efficient light bulbs? How does that even work?
Exactly. LEDs are made of semiconductor layers. To create efficient light, you need to control how electrons and holes recombine within these layers. The landscape function helps simulate this process. It's like having a super accurate map of the electron behavior within the LED.
I see. So before the landscape function, simulating LED behavior was difficult and expensive, right?
Precisely. Traditional methods were inaccurate, especially when dealing with the disorder in the semiconductor layers. This led to the green gap, a lack of efficient green LEDs, which hindered the creation of balanced white light.
Ah, the green gap. That makes sense. So the landscape function provides a more accurate and efficient way to simulate these complex interactions, leading to better LED designs?
Yes, it's a game changer. The landscape function essentially smooths out the complexities of the system, making the simulations much more manageable and accurate. This has allowed researchers to design more efficient green LEDs, closing the green gap.
This is incredible. So it's not just theoretical math, it's directly impacting our daily lives and saving billions of dollars in energy costs. But, how exactly does this smoothing work on a technical level? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true.
It's not magic, but it's pretty close. The landscape function solves a related equation that effectively homogenizes the disordered potential in the Schrödinger equation, making it easier to solve for the electron wave functions. It's a clever mathematical trick that simplifies a very complex problem. Think of it as finding a simpler, equivalent representation of a complex system.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So the landscape function isn't replacing empirical testing entirely, but it's significantly speeding up the design process, making it more efficient and cost-effective. This is a beautiful example of how seemingly abstract mathematical concepts can have profound real-world implications.
Absolutely. And the best part is that this is just the beginning. The article mentions that major companies are now incorporating these landscape-based methods into their simulations, promising even further energy savings in the future. It's a fantastic example of the power of interdisciplinary collaboration between mathematicians, physicists, engineers, and industry professionals.
This is truly inspiring. It shows how fundamental research, even in seemingly abstract areas like pure mathematics, can have a huge impact on society. It's a testament to the power of curiosity-driven research and its potential for unexpected breakthroughs.
Indeed. And it highlights the importance of continued investment in both fundamental and applied research. Thank you for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating intersection of mathematics and energy efficiency. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating story from Penn State University about a student's groundbreaking work on a century-old math problem related to wind energy. It's incredibly exciting stuff.
Absolutely. 100-year-old problem? That sounds intense. What's the core issue here?
Right. It all centers around a problem formulated by Hermann Glauert, a British aerodynamicist. His work focused on maximizing the power coefficient of a wind turbine, how efficiently it converts wind to electricity. But he missed a crucial piece.
Missed a piece? What did he overlook? I'm intrigued.
Glauert only considered the maximum power output. He didn't account for the total force and moment acting on the turbine rotor, the spinning part with the blades. Think about it. The blades bend under wind pressure, right? The turbine has to withstand that force.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about how much power you get, but also the stress on the turbine itself?
Exactly. That's where Divya Tyagi, a Penn State graduate student, comes in. She refined Glauert's work, adding a crucial addendum that addresses these missing factors. She used the calculus of variations, a powerful mathematical tool for optimization problems.
So she essentially made Glauert's work more complete and practical? That's amazing.
Precisely. Her solution is simpler, more elegant, and accounts for the total load on the turbine. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities in wind turbine design. It's not just theoretical. A 1% improvement in power coefficient, which her work helps achieve, could significantly increase a turbine's energy output, enough to power a whole neighborhood.
Wow, a 1% improvement sounds small, but the impact is huge. What was the challenge in solving this problem? It sounds like it took a lot of work.
It did. Tyagi spent countless hours on it. She said it was incredibly math-intensive, spending 10 to 15 hours a week on it. Her advisor, Sven Schmitz, had been pondering this problem for decades, and she was the only student who actually tackled it and succeeded. It's a testament to her persistence.
Incredible. And she won an award for her thesis on this, right? The Anthony E. Wolk Award?
Yes, a well-deserved recognition. And now, she's pursuing her master's degree, working on computational fluid dynamics simulations for helicopter rotors. Her research is even supported by the U.S. Navy, focusing on improving flight simulation and pilot safety.
This is such an inspiring story. It shows how fundamental research can have real-world applications, and how a single student can make a significant contribution to a field. It's a great example of the power of persistence and dedication.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic example of how even seemingly small improvements in fundamental science can have a huge impact on technology and society, and it highlights the importance of supporting young researchers. This is truly a story of remarkable achievement.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing this exciting news with us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of wind energy and mathematical breakthroughs. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating article from Asterisk Magazine, A Defense of Weird Research. It's all about the surprisingly high returns on investment from seemingly bizarre government-funded scientific research. Get ready, because this is a wild ride.
I'm intrigued. So, the core argument is that even research that seems pointless, like levitating frogs, can lead to major breakthroughs, right? I mean, levitating frogs?
Exactly. The article highlights how basic research, often seen as impractical, consistently yields unexpected and transformative results. They use the example of research on rat pups and maternal touch, which surprisingly led to massage therapy for premature infants, saving billions in healthcare costs. Billions!
Wow. That's a compelling example. But how do they justify the seemingly less practical research, like, the frog levitation stuff?
They argue that scientific progress isn't linear. Basic research, which focuses on fundamental principles, often precedes applied research, which develops specific technologies. The frog research, for instance, while seemingly odd, contributed to a new theory of rehydration, leading to oral rehydration therapy, saving millions of lives. It's all connected, you see.
I see. So it's a long-term investment strategy. But doesn't the private sector have an incentive to fund this kind of research too? I mean, there's profit to be made, right?
That's where the article gets really interesting. They argue that several structural barriers prevent the private sector from fully embracing basic research. First, the long timelines involved, often 20 years or more, are a major deterrent for investors focused on short-term returns. Second, basic research is a public good. Its benefits are widely shared, making it difficult for any single company to capture the full value of its investment. Think CRISPR, built on decades of publicly funded research.
Right, the public good aspect makes sense. But what about the argument that the government isn't good at picking winners? How do they address that?
The article counters this by explaining that government agencies like the NIH and NSF use peer review processes to evaluate grant applications. It's a form of internal competition, ensuring that only the strongest proposals get funded. It's not perfect, but it's a system designed to mitigate the risk.
Okay, so peer review is their answer to the picking winners problem. But what about the claim that research productivity is declining? Is that a valid concern?
The article acknowledges this decline, but suggests it might be due to institutional hurdles like bureaucracy and a focus on short-term results, rather than an inherent limitation of scientific discovery. They propose reforms to the funding mechanisms, such as simplifying grant applications and extending grant cycles, to encourage more bold, exploratory research. It's about fixing the pipeline, not abandoning the whole endeavor.
So in essence, they're arguing that even though it's risky and the returns aren't immediately obvious, investing in basic research is crucial for long-term progress and economic growth. And that even seemingly weird research is worth the investment.
Precisely. The article concludes that while predicting success is impossible, history shows that even seemingly inefficient investments in basic science often yield transformative returns. By funding the speculative and the strange, we're making some of the best bets for our collective future. And that, my friends, is a powerful message. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of weird research. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Neal Stephenson's fascinating exploration of Thomas More, specifically his analysis of More's A Dialogue, a surprisingly obscure work. It's a wild ride, I tell you.
I'm eager to hear this. Stephenson unearthed this book while researching the etymology of the word wrong, right? What's the hook?
Exactly. He stumbled upon a 1528 More quote in the OED. Our heart yoyer thinketh the judgment wrong, that ringeth us to the worse. A brilliant wordplay, connecting the older, physical sense of wrong with its modern meaning of incorrect. But the real story is the context.
So he bought a $150 facsimile of this rare book? That's dedication. What did he find?
Oh my. The dialogue is a debate with a straw man opponent, ostensibly about the veneration of images and relics, but it's really a thinly veiled attack on early Protestants. More, the author of Utopia, comes across as, well, let's just say unsympathetic.
Unsympathetic is an understatement. Stephenson paints a picture of More approving of burning heretics, right? That's a bit jarring for someone considered a humanist.
Precisely. Stephenson argues that More's seemingly objective discussion of judicial proceedings in the dialogue is actually a justification for his actions as Lord Chancellor, overseeing the burning of Protestants. It's a chilling juxtaposition.
It's a fascinating case of intellectual dissonance, isn't it? A man who champions reason and justice yet participates in such brutality. Does Stephenson offer any explanation?
He suggests More's unwavering faith led him to prioritize absolute submission to church authority, even if it meant condoning horrific acts. He sees More's intellectual brilliance as being subordinated to this blind faith. It's a compelling, if somewhat uncomfortable, interpretation.
Uncomfortable is a good word. It challenges the traditional, sanitized view of More. The article mentions More's hair shirt too. A literal one.
Yes. Stephenson uses that as a metaphor for More's intellectual self-flagellation, his public humiliation of his own intellect in the service of the church. It's a powerful image, powerful and unsettling.
The irony of More's sainthood and his inclusion among the heroes of the Russian Revolution is striking. Both institutions are incredibly authoritarian.
Absolutely. Stephenson uses this as a final point to highlight the dangers of unchecked authority and the seductive nature of relinquishing critical thinking in the face of absolute belief. It's a powerful conclusion.
So the seemingly simple exploration of a word's etymology led to a complex examination of faith, power, and the dark side of history. A remarkable journey.
Indeed. It's a reminder that even seemingly straightforward historical figures can have incredibly complex and troubling legacies. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the wrongs of Thomas More. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating online tool, a free favicon hash generator. It's a game changer for OSINT investigations. You know?
A favicon hash generator? Sounds intriguing. What exactly does it do, and why is it so useful for security researchers?
Exactly. It takes a website's favicon, that tiny little icon you see in your browser tab, and generates several different cryptographic hashes from it. MMH3, MD5, and SHA-256. Think of it as a unique fingerprint for that favicon.
So why bother with hashes? Why not just use the favicon itself?
Great question. Hashes are much more efficient for searching across massive databases like Shodan or VirusTotal. Imagine trying to visually compare millions of favicons. Impossible. But comparing hashes is super fast. Plus, even a tiny change to the favicon will result in a completely different hash.
I see. So this tool essentially gives you direct links to search these platforms using the generated hashes?
Precisely. It not only generates the hashes, but also provides ready-made search links for Shodan, VirusTotal, Senses, Zoomeye, and FOFA. It even shows you a preview of the favicon itself, along with its dimensions. It's incredibly convenient.
That's pretty slick. What kind of information can you glean from this? I mean, what are the practical applications beyond just finding similar favicons?
Oh, there's a lot you can do. Finding related websites, uncovering hidden subdomains of a target organization, tracking changes to a website over time, even discovering related web assets you might not have known existed. It's a powerful OSINT tool.
It sounds like it could be useful for identifying potentially malicious websites that might be using stolen favicons, right? A kind of digital fingerprint analysis?
Absolutely. If you find a website using a favicon with a hash that matches a known malicious site, that's a huge red flag. It's a quick way to identify potential threats. It's a really clever application of hashing.
And it supports all major web protocols, right? So it's not limited to just HTTP or HTTPS?
Correct. It works with all the major protocols, making it incredibly versatile. And the best part? It's completely free and browser-based. No software to download or install.
This is fantastic. It seems like a must-have tool for anyone involved in web security or OSINT work. It simplifies a process that would otherwise be incredibly tedious and time-consuming.
Exactly. It streamlines the process significantly. It's a great example of how simple tools can have a huge impact on security research. And that's why we're highlighting it today.
Definitely worth checking out. Thanks for highlighting this useful resource.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time with more exciting tech news. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.